Clemson 51, Citadel 14. Welcome back to another edition of the Clemson Postgame Live here on the Clemson Voice College Football YouTube channel. I am your host, Jordan Bowman. We have a lot to talk about this game. A lot of interesting takeaways from it. I'm sure that you guys have a lot to get off in the comment section. Of course, we do these every week after every Clemson football game. So if you would like to, please hit that like button, subscribe. It really does help the channel, and share this with your friends. We will be doing the call-in portion for a little bit today. It's probably not going to be as long of a show as normal. Tiger Paul Craven is on the road right now, but he will be joining the show. So yeah, make sure you guys are getting in your comments. I see quite a few of you are in here already. Yeah, let me give a quick shout out to you guys. Actually, we got John in here, one of our resident moderators. Jay, another one of our regulars. Good to see you. Dylan, what's up, my man? Trey, JR is here. Let's see. K Klubnik enthusiast. Good to see you. Another one of our regulars. Tiger fan 24, and I'm sure more of you will be getting in shortly. But let's not waste any more time. Let's talk about this one. This one was this was a weird one. But Clemson 51, Citadel 14. Let me bring on my co-host, Tiger Paul Craven. What's going on, my man?
Hey, what's up, Jordan? How you doing tonight, man?
I'm good, man. I'm still trying to kind of process some of the things that we saw today. We were pretty close on I think I was pretty close on my prediction. I think I picked 52-10. And this final score ended up being 51-14, but it didn't look quite the way that I thought it would.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You were pretty close. I wasn't too terribly off. I think I picked 45-14 was my score prediction. So we were right in the neighborhood of where that final score ended up. Although, to your point, it looked a little bit different than all of us probably thought it would today. But I'm sure we'll get into all of that as we get going here and breaking down what we just watched between our Tigers and the Citadel.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And yeah, just a quick reminder, let me go ahead and put the link into the comment section. If you guys want to call in, feel free to. We like to hear from you guys. So I'm posting it right now. Should be in there. But yeah, man, Clemson 51, the Citadel 14. You put up over 500 yards of offense. You look at that first half, especially from the ones with Cade, and pretty efficient. I mean, was there anything that really stood out to you in that first half with just kind of how the ones played offensively? We'll talk about the defense in a second. But what did you kind of see?
Yeah, I mean, he put it was moving offense way.
Okay. Yeah, I think we lost TPC. I was wondering if that was me or not, but we'll try to get him back in and get his thoughts. But yeah, I mean, you put up over 500 yards of offense. K Klubnik was really efficient today. I have his stats up. 12 of 16, 198 yards, 12 and a half yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns. I mean, not too many complaints. It was a very efficient offense. You hit explosive plays. Antonio Williams caught 2 touchdowns today. Brian Wesco got him 1 on a deep ball. You ran the ball really efficiently. You ran for over 300 yards on the day total. it was a very good performance, and kind of what we expected. So I think we got TPC back. Yeah, you were kind of breaking up towards the end there, so you can kind of just finish, kind of what your thought was.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how much you heard, but Antonio Williams had a great day, 2 touchdowns. Brian Wesco had a good day of his own, adding another touchdown. I think Cade Klubnik was, very accurate today. Good decision making, explosive plays in the running game. I like to see that Maffa only got 3 carries on the night. That made me happy. Didn't want to see him get too much of a run. Shout out to Jay Haynes though. That's a guy that just pops out in my mind. Over 100 yards rushing. He only got 5 carries in the game actually, but you think about that 70-yard explosive running play, and that was kind of the story of the game. We ran the ball really well. Cade Klubnik was very accurate. The receivers were getting open. The offense kind of had its way, and that's what you should have expected heading into this game against the inferior competition of the Citadel.
Yeah, no, man, I'm with you, and I think Cade was extremely accurate, and it was good to see, like you said, it was good to see the other backs, especially Jay Haynes. It's like, man, okay, look, we've talked about him. We talked about him all off season, and kind of the burst that we thought he could give to this running back room, and it was good to see that kind of come to fruition a little bit. I mean, of course, we know it's the Citadel, but in some of the games this year, it would have been nice to give him at least a couple of carries. I think Phil Maffa absolutely is your number one back and needs to be on the field a lot, but especially when we've gotten down the stretch, and Phil Maffa is clearly not 100%. He's dealing with an injury, looks like probably his shoulder. He's not really he's not really seeking contact like he was earlier in the year. And he's kind of a step slower because that's just the natural wear and tear over the course of a season. Like you need to have a change of pace back, and and Garrett Riley talked about it during the week. He kind of wishes they had gotten Jay in a little bit more over the past couple of weeks. So it's good to see him get some burn and have the explosive day that he did. Offensive line, it was good to get Tristan Lay and Marcus Tate back. They seem to be close to good. They seem playable. They're better than what you had last week against Pitt, that's for sure. So hope the prayers that they stay healthy and that they're good for South Carolina, because obviously the step up in terms of front seven is pretty massive. But yeah, receivers wise, Bryant. You already mentioned Bryant Wesco and Antonio Williams. At tight end, Olsen Pat Henry got the start today. I'm interested to. I don't. Did Jake Briningstool get? I don't even feel like I saw him out there. I don't
I
know if
don't
you
remember
did.
seeing him at all, honestly.
Yeah.
And if he
Thought that
was
was
out
interesting.
there, he certainly didn't receive a target. Not that I can remember.
Yeah. Really strange. Who knows? He could be dealing with something, or it could be something else. I don't know. But we didn't really see much of him. He took care of the football. Other than and the one turnover was in the second half by Trent Pierman, and that was whatever. All in all, it was a very, very efficient, explosive day for the offense. You did what you had to do, did what you were supposed to do. And that I think you should feel at least okay with where the offense is right now. Of course, the step up in competition next week is massive, and we haven't seen this group really put it together against some of the better defenses they've played. So wasn't a banner performance, but you did what you were supposed to do, and against an inferior opponent. So you gotta give them some level of props.
Yeah, I
Is
mean,
anything else
talking about that
yeah,
offensive line, Jordan.
yeah.
I think they had a really good day today. We ran the ball extremely effectively as a group. Pass protection was really good, and I know it's the Citadel, and I completely understand that, but it was nice to see those guys go out there and have themselves a really good day. Hope that we can continue to get healthy along that offensive line, because that's going to be, I mean, every game in big time college football, especially when you're playing an opponent that's close to, equal to, or greater than the talent that you have. And that'll certainly be the case tomorrow. You mentioned the step up in talent that we have coming next week against the South Carolina Gamecocks, and it's going to start in the trenches. And we really need this offensive line to have themselves a really good day against the South Carolina Gamecocks if we hope to be able to move the ball consistently and compete at a high level in that game. It's going to start with those guys. So I thought it was good to see them guys go out there and really have a really good day, and be able to, us essentially run the ball at will, and pretty much do whatever we wanted to offensively. So I know it was the Citadel, and the competition is far less than we will be going up against next week, when South Carolina comes to town. But still, you like to see those guys have a good day, and that's what they did.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you said the offensive line is going to have to step up their game. If you want to step up your game in the college football betting world, I would like you guys to hear a word from our sponsor, Mark Rogers, because he's got something for you. We'll be right back.
College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.
All right, you guys heard from Mark Rogers. If you guys want to get better at betting, if you are in that space, feel free to check out Voice of College Football Bets. Of course, that's available through Patreon. It is in the link in the description. So feel free to check that out. Expert picks, and as you saw the resume. So, I can't recommend them enough. If you really want to step up your game, but transitioning to the defense, which is probably the thing that the side of the ball that stuck out the most. Well, arguably, we can talk about special teams too, but defensively, you gave up 14 on the scoreboard, and on the surface, it's if you didn't watch the game, you would have said, "Oh man, all right, well, that was a fine defensive performance." But then you go and you look deeper into the numbers, and you gave up 288 yards rushing on the day, 5.2 yards per carry, 55 rushing attempts by the Citadel. And honestly, the 14 points still was a little misleading, because you probably should have given up and maybe a couple more touchdowns. At this point, I don't want to belabor the point about this defense. They are who they are. I think more importantly right now is just I fully expect a change to be made regarding how this staff is constructed. Potentially who is running the defense for next year. What did you see, TPC? Because they kind of are who they are, and it's kind of hard to just get on here and get upset and and ramble and rant about this defense and how underwhelming they've been this year.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan, I think you hit it on the head, right? This defense has been extremely underwhelming this season, and heading into the season, this defense was talked about as potentially one of the best 10 or so defenses in the country, and they have absolutely 100% not lived up to that billing at all. And this giving up chunk plays and big yardage on the ground is nothing new to this Clemson team. We've been doing it time and time again all season long, and this afternoon was no different. The only thing different was it was an opponent with far less talent than you that should not have been able to run the ball that effectively against you. But again, this defense always lets people gash them on the ground time and time again. And it happened again today. And you give up, what was it, 380 yards of
280, but yeah.
Excuse me, not 280 yards on the ground against the Citadel. And it could have been worse at times. I mean, you think about a couple plays as far as the scoreboard goes that could have made it look a lot different. That wide open route ran down the middle that the quarterback just overthrew. That was a touchdown.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll give Avion Terrell credit for stripping that ball, but that dude was heading into the end zone for a touchdown, and he tackles him, strips the ball, and it turns into a turnover. Another one, they were driving the ball, and then Peyton Page obviously goes in and has a pick six and turns that into a positive play for the defense. But all of those drives were drives where the Citadel was moving the ball very effectively against this defense. And it's really puzzling, the regression that the defense has had this season. Wes Goodwin's got to do something about it, man. This is absolutely unacceptable. The amount of talent that is sitting on that defense, they should not be giving up 280 yards of rushing to the Citadel. I don't care what option concepts they brought to it. I don't care that they were running some triple option type stuff. I don't care. It doesn't matter. You are physically you physically outmatch them in every single way. You out talent them in every single way. So there should be no excuse for you to continually get gashed like they did time and time again tonight. It's really frustrating to watch. But to your point, we've been saying this kind of stuff all season. This defense is who it is at this point, right? They're a very inconsistent group. They're a group that's going to allow explosive plays on the ground. They're a group that is going to just have mental lapses at times. They're a group that's going to miss tackles, and that's just who the Clemson defense is this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I mean, you hit it on the head, and to the point of, yeah, I mean, they were running option concepts. They've done they didn't show you anything differently that they haven't done all year, and you gave up they ran for their highest rushing total of the season on you. The most they had ran on any other team before you was they ran for about 274, I think, against Western Carolina. You're Clemson. This is their last game. You're Clemson, and you gave up almost 300 yards on the ground. Now, I know I just said earlier that I wasn't going to rant and I wasn't going to get upset, but just when you think about it, because it's not a talent issue. Like we're going to have a conversation about talent acquisition and Clemson's recruiting as of late, but the guys you have on the roster are more than capable of not allowing 300 yards rushing against the Citadel. That is not talent. That is poorly coached, talented players playing poorly coached. I don't know how to say it like any other way. Like it's not that you're getting out physical. Like it wasn't like they were bullying you up front. It's just, especially when you're playing the option, it's about just basic assignment football. That is something that you learn at every single level of football, is how to play sound assignment football. And you're not doing that. Guys are out of their gaps. Guys are not, are not with their man. They don't understand what they're reading. They don't understand what they're looking at, and that is on. I mean, it's on Dabo, ultimately, but it's also on the guy he hired to run this defense and the position coaches. Like, that's a problem, and it's a problem that's reoccurred over the course of the season, and it's gotten to the point where it's like I don't see any other way. The way that Dabo was laying into Wes Goodwin today, I have never seen him look that way again towards any coach ever. I've never seen him lay into somebody that hard than I saw him laying into Wes Goodwin on the sideline today. Now, I'm not one to, publicly call for people's heads or anything like that, but I think the writing is on the wall. I don't see I can't read that any other way than what I just saw today. I think there's changes coming. I wish it could happen sooner rather than later, but I understand Dabo wouldn't do that. But that's where we are.
Yeah, you're 100% correct, Jordan. And we make a point on this show not to necessarily call for coaches' heads or call for people to be fired, but at the end of the day, we do have to comment on what we see on the field. And to your point, I think it's clear that not only does changes need to be made on the defensive side of the ball, but I 100% agree with you that Dabo will make the decision, because today wasn't the first time that he's done that on the sideline to Wes Goodwin. This is a reoccurring thing this season.
It's been a lot of times this year. You're right.
Yeah, it's happened time and time again. Several games this year where they've caught Dabo on camera just basically laying into Wes Goodwin in the middle of games, and numerous commentators in the middle of games have mentioned it. So this is nothing new, and I do think that Dabo's probably going to go a different direction for the Clemson defense come season's end. He won't do it in the middle of the season. It's just not Dabo's style. But I think he's definitely going to make a change on that side of the ball in the offseason.
Yep, I'm with you. And I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. A lot of you guys listening. We do have our first caller of the night. Mr. Dylan Spell. What's up, my man?
Hey, there's not much to say. We got to win. So that's really good. Yeah. I don't know. Thing is I was just on Clemson Football Live with Brian Knight just a few days ago this week, making a comment. Thing is he mentions the offense all the time, and we do struggle on offense as well. And so we're not really calling for people's head necessarily right now on offense, but we still need to see some change there too. Don't know what that is necessarily, but only a handful of times we've talked about the defense as far as needing some change. And I mean, we did hold the Citadel to 14, and I don't know if you watched any of the Watford South Carolina game, but they were playing them pretty close for
I
the
saw
first quarter and a half. So I mean, do you think we need a change on both offense and defense, or do we need to just stick with defense right now?
I think that's a good question. Offensively, we came into the year. I think when you take a step back and look at what the expectations were for the offense heading into the year, I think they've still exceeded expectations. They've had some disappointing moments, that's for sure. But considering where you are, the progression that you've made from year one of Garrett Riley to year two, and the progression of Cade Klubnik was certainly beyond where we thought he would be. I think I think there needs to be some minor tweaks, but as far as some significant changes to the offense or the offensive staff, I don't think that's coming. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. I mean, that's up to Dabo to evaluate. But defensively, that was the unit we came into the year fully expecting to be able to rely on. He thought the defense certainly had their moments last season, but they were much better than this. And so in this regression was not in the cards. I mean, you bring back Peter Woods and T.J. Parker, you bring back Barrett Carter and Wade Woodaz, Avion Terrell. I mean, you had a young secondary. Honestly, we were worried about the youth in the secondary, and they've outperformed. They've been the better unit, really, on the defense, largely on the year. I mean, the younger guys have played pretty well. But the linebackers have been hopefully inconsistent. You didn't have a pass rush this year, and really until late in the year, and so you're constantly having these moments in games, or not even just moments, but stretches in games where you just flat out can't get a stop, or you're just playing bad fundamental football, and that's a reflection on the coaching on that side of the ball. And I think that's ultimately where the focus needs to be, I think, if I'm Dabo right now, because that was the one thing that we should have expected to play at a high level, and they just haven't this year, really, at a single game. Maybe the Wake Forest game, they were really good, mostly. I can't think of the Virginia Tech game. They played well, but that you were playing a hobbled. I mean, Virginia Tech and Pitt, you were playing hobbled offenses, so it's hard to even really get that excited about it. So it's like, yeah, man, I think that needs to be the focus this offseason.
Is this all on Wes Goodwin then? So is he the only one that needs to go? I'm big on Mike Reed. I mentioned that in the comments, but even in the secondary, it was. I think it was Ashton Hampton. He whiffed on the guy, and he ran right past him.
Yep.
I think he was waiting for like a lateral and was trying to keep the other receiver honest. But then he just got whiffed on that play. I don't know if you remember that play or not. Necessarily.
Was it the? Was it a run play or was it?
It was a run play. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that they haven't been very good at is in run support. The corners specifically, that's just not something they've been good at. But I think that's something that they get better. I expect them to get better because we've seen our corners under Mike Reed get better at that aspect, and of course they've gotten better in coverage. But to answer your first question, I think it starts with Wes Goodwin. Ultimately, it's up to Dabo to evaluate because obviously none of us are in that, in the practice every day to see what the coaching is truly like on that side of the ball. But what I do know is that when the defense isn't playing well, Wes is not the one whipping them into shape. It's either Dabo or it's Nick Eason. Those are the main two that are really had any fire to lay into kids, or get them motivated. Mike Reed is he's always been kind of mellow, but it's worked because I think he knows what he's doing. But I think it starts with Wes, and then beyond that, I think it's up to Dabo to kind of evaluate. But I think the defense as a whole not performing as expected, it falls ultimately on the shoulders of Wes Goodwin. So.
DK, Darian Kendrick, a few years back, he mentioned that practice at Clemson is different than practice at Georgia. And so I don't know how far back this goes. Maybe it's more than just Wes Goodwin. But I know when Brent Venables was there, you could definitely see some fire in him. And I know we talk about that all the time, but maybe kind of like what you're saying, they just need to be energized more than what they are right now because they are lacking. I mean, at times heart, I guess. It seems like a lot of times they make penalties on themselves that's unnecessary, which that one penalty that happened tonight with that face mask was not.
I don't know what that was. That was just a bad call. Like that's the one I can't. That's not Wes Goodwin's fault. That's a ref. I don't know. But regardless, they were having success on that drive anyway, and that just can't, especially as often as it was. that just can't happen. So, but yeah, I think it. I don't think he, Wes is the only one potentially on the chopping block, but I think it starts with him, and I think Dabo will evaluate whether or not he needs to make a change anywhere else. But
yeah. Thanks for taking the call. One last thing, Barrett Carter getting a touchdown, running it in. I wonder who made that call.
Yeah. I was like, I know who made that call. That was fun. And then they did the little Fortnite dance in the end zone. That was funny. But yeah, that was nice because has he scored a touchdown?
I think so.
Not
from my knowledge.
Yeah, not even like a defensive touchdown. I can't think of one.
No, I think that was the first one of his Clemson career. So
yeah, so that was cool. And then you had Peyton Page with the thick six. That's great instincts by him. On that little screen, he just got right in between it.
Well, Sammy was wide open.
Shout out to Ricardo Jones for that block of the quarterback. That got Peyton Page in the end zone because he was running out of gas at the end.
Oh yeah, he was. I know they probably had to put him on the ventilator afterward to give him some oxygen. That was he was laboring. But that was pretty cool. One of my friends said he unhooked the trailer on that one. That was but that was cool.
Sammy Brown, he had that blitz going right up the middle. There was nowhere for that ball to go.
Nope.
That's where Dabo would say just throw it away. But that's the Citadel. So you would expect probably a sack at that point. But I think that interception for pick six was a whole lot better.
Yeah, 100%. Dylan, thank you so much for joining. Yep. Thank you for calling in. And I think this is we should have a tally. I know that it's probably hard to do with StreamYard, but it'd be cool. I know I've seen other call-in shows like they have like a list of, or they keep track of how many times each person is called in. You can get that'll be something down the road. That was just me thinking out loud. But thanks, Dylan.
Yes, sir. Thank you all.
We'll see you next time, brother.
Sounds good.
All right, Dylan Spell, thank you for calling in. We got our next caller, another one who called last week, another regular from the comment section. The Hard Take, what's going on, my man?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. What did you think about this performance? I saw some of your thoughts in the comment section, but what do you think as far as the overall trajectory of the defense and the team as a whole right now?
I did enjoy seeing, obviously we'll take the win.
Oh yeah.
It seems so simple to sit there and look back and say, hey, this is what Brent Venables did. You could have just looked at that tape at what he did to Georgia Tech. And stop the run. It's like it's not rocket science. But once again, like I said before, we didn't really see an adjustment at halftime or anything to stop the triple option. I think that's the frustrating part for even Dabo Swinney, is that he's looking over there and he's like, what is going on? This guy, literally, your secondary is actually very good, good enough to handle, the Citadel and what they have to offer. So why not lock those guys up in man and then rain hell through every gap? You pretty much could have done that with speed, as we did see, like Sammy Brown on the. It might have been the interception play. Where he just blows right past the center and the guard, and he's like, right at the quarterback, he has to get rid of the ball, and all of a sudden it's picked off. That it's making things happen. And I think that there's something more to it, than I think it's a philosophy difference. Like, if you notice, like, Wes Goodwin will not blitz when you normally would smell blood. He has a tendency to rush just 3 down linemen or 4 down linemen and back off. Even his secondary, he'll back them off 10 yards on like very important drives. So it's a really strange philosophy that I don't think a lot of people understand. And he gets paid a whole lot of money, more than I make, obviously, and probably more than you make,
Oh
obviously.
yeah.
And I'm starting to wonder if actually if I wouldn't do a better job than he does. I mean, if I had like 11 guys that are going to play in the NFL out there playing against a team that literally they said they were getting their coach was standing outside a history class and trying
Yo,
to
man,
get guys that never played football before.
they
And
out
yet they put
they out
up
here
300 yards on you.
manhandling in between classes to get football players, and just casually dropping 280 yards on Clemson's defense.
I do have to say that running back though, he he
Yeah,
probably should have been walking on to Alabama or Georgia.
yeah,
He's pretty damn good.
he's
He
good.
was he
He's
was
good.
big.
Yeah. No, I'm with you though. Like it's just really strange that kind of the philosophy, kind of how they go about doing things. It seems like they're too tentative at times. And I don't really understand it. Especially in a game like this where you outmatch the opponent so severely, from a speed, athleticism, strength standpoint, and you play scared and you allow them. And it's not like they gave you a bunch of different looks. Like their running scheme was dive play, speed option, dive play, speed option. It wasn't even like a whole lot of crazy like trick plays. Yeah, they hit a flea flicker, one play, but they didn't
That
do
was
anything all that
totally
stuff.
unnecessary, by the way. They didn't the guy was so wide open they didn't need the flea flicker, but that's another story altogether. So.
Yeah, oops. I can't wait to go back and watch that and just see like what happened there.
Huge bust.
Why you have a bust like that, and then the one over the middle on their first drive that should have been a touchdown. That's just how does that happen against you? Like we very easily could have been talking if it wasn't for that they missed a field goal, and then they also and then they had the pick six. We could have been talking about like a 14-14 ball game. In the first or like early in the second quarter, like that's
the sad thing that you're bringing up right there. That's the point. And you sit there and you talk about the rankings and why you don't get a shot or why there's a glass ceiling. It seems that's why. That's the reason why, is because when you go out, if there's just literally just looking at scores, which I believe that does happen a lot with the pollsters, because of course they can't watch everything. But if you watch just a minute and you actually see what was going on there, you only get moved up if they have no other choice. So it makes it very difficult for Clemson when they're not like, the score looks good, but it very easily could have looked bad again if it was 21-51. It's like, well, why in the world was, and it was very close to being that. Very close. But like last week when I was talking, I don't have a problem with what they did in substitutions tonight per se. That was more like what I wanted to see. I just wanted to see a little bit more Jarvis Green, because I think that he's that close from breaking a long touchdown almost every time he touches the ball.
Oh yeah, he had a couple of nice ones. It really, I mean, all the backs that got carries looked pretty decent. Keith Adams had a couple of nice runs. David Eziamume. Jarvis got that opportunity, and It sucks because I think on the drive that he came in was the drive because he came in with Trent Pierman. That was the one that
Yeah,
Trent.
he made the run, a great run, and I was like, just hand the ball off to him again. I told my dad he's ready to, it's like, all right, let's go to Oklahoma, Alabama. Okay, let's watch Kansas beat Colorado. And I'm like, no, 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 leave it. I want to see this running back play. And I'd be damned if they didn't throw the next play, throw it. It goes right through the guy's hands, gets tipped and intercepted. And I'm just like, okay, that's it. All right,
All right, yeah,
but
you can change it. Yeah, I mean, it was good to see the backs, all your backs get that opportunity. I mean, because and the announcers are talking about. I mean, like this is the group you're going to be relying on next year. You're going to hopefully, fingers crossed, add Gideon Davidson to the mix. But it's you're not going to have a bona fide number one or a clear cut number one. Although I think Jay Haynes certainly acquitted
yeah.
himself nicely today. So I mean, offensively, I don't really have too many complaints. I wish, Chris Vizina got in and played. Thought he still looks really good as a runner, as a passer. I mean, he still clearly has some developing to do. Some passes, like it wasn't even always just like him making the wrong read. He just needs to be more accurate with the football. But yeah, don't have too many complaints there. What did you think about the special teams? We didn't really talk about that before, but it would.
I think everybody has, I think that they figured it out, just like Florida State and everybody did. This season is if they overload and spread the gap on the left side of the
Left
line.
side.
They were doing it on the right side, and the kicks were getting through, and then they switched on the left side, and then they blocked it. So I, when I was getting, there wasn't a whole lot really to see much of punting, but. I'm wondering. I'm wondering if the word's already been given out. If the kickoff specialist, I forget his name. Is he
Robert Gunn.
probably good? Yeah, you think he's transferring because he didn't even get a chance to try to kick a field goal today or an extra point or nothing? I
Yeah,
don't think.
well, I mean, he's not a senior, so I mean, I imagine that probably had something to do with it. Like they just want him on kickoff right now, but I don't know. He's. I mean, I would not be surprised. I haven't heard anything, but I would not be
Yeah.
surprised. I mean, he came here to be a number one, be a kicker, but who knows? He sticks around and decides he wants to try to win the job. But
He's not going to win that job. He's that other dude. The Hauser hasn't missed a kick. The kicks have been blocked because of piss poor blocking. He has not missed a kick all season. He's going to be very good as long
yeah,
as he gets good height. From the snap to the kick is supposed to be 1.4 seconds. I don't think that that's being achieved. The snap and the holds do look adequate. I think that his timing is going to get faster. Um, I think that the blocking on the left side, they're going to have to fix that, whether it's through a formation or a gimmick just to get the heat off. You got to get a little bit of heat off your kicker there because um, the one that got blocked, that guy kicked it extremely low, which
yeah,
just means he like when he was running up to kick the ball, his plant foot was probably about 3 inches too far forward, not centered on the spine of the ball, and he pulled his head up. So he's new. He was new in there. He's probably the third string kicker or something. He wanted to see it go through the uprights. And what we always say, if you want to see an ugly kick, look up at it.
yeah,
Watch it on the replay or the highlights, but keep your head down. That probably would have avoided that one getting blocked there. But yeah, that's what I've seen coming from that, or me actually having an expertise in that specific area. So that I think that those things can be fixed on the field goal unit. They have to do something formationally, and they really need to get somebody. Peter Woods was in there a week ago, but if they're overloading it with like five different guys, you literally have to have the ball off in 1.2 to 1.4. Snap, boom, boom, boom. You've got to be moving when the ball's in the air. The kicker's got to be moving and not waiting on the ball to be set on the ground. So that is That's the
Well, let's
difference
hire you,
between the
man. Because
NFL.
good Lord, we're paying like this staff of analysts, some of them who played or coached in the NFL, to do all of that, and we're still not getting good results from our kicking game. I'm at a loss. I'm kind of at this point,
Yeah,
like
I would
I'm
take
treating
one of those
special teams
salaries,
like a
by the way,
defense.
if you know someone to put in a good word.
Yeah,
I would take. I mean, I'll come in. I'll do your special teams. Just give me a. I'll take Ron Perlman's paycheck. You know.
yeah, yeah, man. I listen. If I can get in contact with somebody, I'm definitely throwing your name in the ring because, good Lord, it's we're on the struggle bus there.
Got
It's
a
that
lot. You got a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent at Clemson, and the personnel usage is so strange. It's so strange. The thing that blew here's something that really cracked me up. Tell me when they handed the football off to Barrett Carter that he did not look like a running back for Alabama or Georgia.
he did. I mean,
I was like,
he
holy shit, this guy should be playing all the time there too.
I mean, he looked smooth, man. He hit that. I mean, it was a pretty well
he's
blocked play,
missing the
but
holes on defense. He's missing the gaps and holes on defense, but he hit them on
he hit him
offense.
on offense, man. Yeah, that was good. And at the end of the day, like you said, I mean, like Dylan said before, like, I mean, yeah, obviously you won the game, you were supposed to, but you won the game. You got the seniors a lot of burn. You played a lot of guys. Those are things that we asked for before the game. So, that was good to see. It doesn't seem like you're. I mean, we'll see. Lord knows, like somebody could pull. Somebody might have tore their ACL and go into the locker room. Who knows? Just the way our luck
Dancing
has
or
been.
something stupid.
Yeah.
Dancing and doing something stupid.
Yeah.
We beat the Citadel. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope to God that they don't really take too much pride in this win, because next week it's going to be a lot tougher. It's
Oh
going to
yeah.
be a whole lot tougher to move the ball. Now they're not going to face like poor man's Donovan McNabb and some random Gershel situation randomly that I don't know where that came from, but that was pretty cool with the hurdle that guy. But
Yeah.
yeah, but you're gonna face some talent, probably a more traditional, modern offense, but the talent level is going to go up significantly. Uh, you just can't make those mistakes and win in big football, big time football. And with that, I want to thank you guys for letting me come on here and run my mouth a couple of seconds.
Absolutely, man.
I really enjoy watching you guys and listening. And I'm gonna hop off here, and I'm just gonna listen to you guys. And y'all have a great evening. All right.
You too, man. We appreciate it. Call again. This is always
All
great
right.
having you.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. The hard take, everybody. Gave us the hard take, but it was the truth. That's for sure. Yeah,
that's right. Future special teams coordinator at Clemson University.
That you're right, man. Our future special teams coordinator, or director of special teams, whatever you want to call him, he's going to save us. Any other observations, players that stood out to you? We kind of hit on most of everything that we saw, without getting too far into the weeds, because I could go and break down every play and be like, oh my God, why is the run defense so bad? But at this point, it just doesn't surprise me anymore. So, what did you? Anything else that you noticed before we have another tough conversation?
No, not really, man. The defense is what it is. I think I kind of laid out what I really thought about it a little bit earlier. Just changes got to be made there. Special teams. I know you guys talked a lot about special teams there for a little bit, but something's got to be done there. It's unacceptable at this point. And I know the announcers on the broadcast said that, it was a low kick, and maybe that's the case. I don't know. I have to go back and watch it. Maybe we got some more insight on that come time for the All-In show this coming week. But again, it's just time and time again, block kicks. I don't know how many kicks that is that have been blocked this year, this season, but it's far too many.
Are we up to 7 now? I think 7.
Yeah, it probably is. Yeah, 7. That sounds like
Yes.
about the right number. So 7 kicks blocked this season so far. Unacceptable. The defense output as a whole this season, not really acceptable either. Obviously, we kind of went in depth on that. So that's just kind of it. I mean, there were guys that had really good plays and really good afternoons. Shout out to all those seniors. I mean, senior day's amazing, right? Senior day's one of those, moments where you get to honor all these dudes, some of them that never really contribute in the biggest way on the field, but they contribute to the program. And it's always cool to watch them get to run down the hill and get honored in that way. And then on top of that, you got the Military Appreciation Day and the purple unis, and that's always fun. One of my favorite uniform combinations is those solid purple uniforms that they use for Military Appreciation Day.
Did you see the purple smoke? That was they did when they ran out. They did instead, in place of they shot off the purple smoke. That was new. I hadn't seen that before.
Yeah, we used to do the.
Oh, I think did you mute or? Oh, okay. Hold on. I think he just got home, so he's probably switching to his laptop. But yeah, they did the purple smoke and they shot it off. That was, hey, I wouldn't be upset if that was a permanent change, because let me get rid of that one. I wouldn't be upset if that was a permanent change, because honestly, I missed the balloons. I know why we can't do it, but I think it's stupid. So if we're not going to do the balloons, at least give us something cool, because the hill entrance just kind of doesn't it doesn't have the same sort of fanfare without something to that effect. So
yeah,
hope they continue to do it, but probably not. Especially it felt like it was kind of a thing just unique to Military Appreciation Day. But I hope they take the feedback from the fans, because it got pretty good reviews from what I saw, at least on social media. Yeah, and I'm sure the people in the stadium thought it was cool too. So, yeah, I hope they do that more. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I thought it looked really cool. I thought it brought back kind of some of that, I don't know, luster, that excitement, just kind of that presence that the balloons made when we were able to do that. Unfortunately, until they made us stop doing it, we won't get into that. I think it's ridiculous, but it is what it is. But yeah, I think the purple smoke added a lot to it. So I hope that maybe with the positive reviews from it, that they'll continue to do that, and make it orange smoke or whatever the case may be for the regular home games or whatever they decide. But I really thought it looked cool. I think it definitely added a lot to the running down the hill, and to debut that on Senior Day, Military Appreciation Day, all of that stuff. I thought it was a really cool day, and shout out to the 2 seniors that got their touchdowns, that you wouldn't have expected to get touchdowns, in Peyton Page and Barrett Carter. So Barrett Carter gets a rushing touchdown, I think the first of his career, and then Peyton Page with the thick 6, I think you called it, which is super clever, by the way.
Hey, I didn't come up with it, but I always found it funny. So I always say whenever I see a big man score a touchdown like that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to watch those dudes get down. I thought he was going to score,
And then I was like, uh-oh, I don't think he's going to score.
Yeah.
And then Ricardo Jones came with that clutch block at the end that ultimately got him in the end zone. So there's a good moment for Peyton Page.
Yeah, 100%. That was a lot of fun. I think we'll leave it on that positive note since I've railed on the defense enough. Unfortunately, we have one more negative thing to talk about, not game related, that happened today. Clemson lost another commit in its 2025 recruiting class. Top 100 defensive back Tay Harris announced that he decommitted from Clemson and flipped his commitment to Georgia Tech. There's not really much of a way to spin it. When you lost Bryce Davis and when you lost Isaiah Campbell, it's very similar to this. There's no way to spin it. It's bad, just very, very bad. You lost Grayson Littleton, earlier in the month. This is bad. That's not good. I can only say it so many times. And it's raised a conversation just within the fan base about where Clemson is from a NIL standpoint, where they are from a player compensation standpoint, how they're implementing it in player and talent acquisition. It's a very tough conversation to have without having the numbers. But the reality is I think the bottom line is Clemson is not totally institutionally aligned with how they go about NIL, how they go about fundraising. I don't really know what the solution is. I can't really tell you. And people will say this was about money. This was absolutely about money. It was very clear. Tay had already gotten Clemson to kind of up what they were offering to begin with. But Georgia Tech came with more. And that's all I know. And that's how you lose a kid like that. And it's happened to you multiple times this cycle. And so whether it was with Isaiah Campbell, Bryce Davis, even Blake Hebert. So I think I don't want to start a whole conversation because this is the post-game live, and I want to keep this short. We can have a more in-depth conversation about it, later in the week, or honestly, I think are we doing our next show, our all-in show on Monday? I think we are.
Yes, we are. Yeah, Monday.
Yeah, we haven't announced it, so now's a good a time as any. We will be since it's Thanksgiving and everybody's schedules are kind of crazy. We will be going live on Monday, so 2 days from now. We'll put an announcement out on the community tab as well. So, but I'd let you guys know that. But we can have a conversation about Clemson NIL wise and how that's kind of affected their recruiting this cycle. But the reality is something needs to change there. It's unacceptable where you are, and it's not sustainable. I mean, if you're not going to be a program that can, go and spend money in the portal and go and get, and supplement your roster with the portal, and you're going to be a program that emphasizes high school recruiting, you can't be bringing in 12 kid classes, and you can't be having your 4 top 100 players poached from your recruiting class. That's not sustainable. It's sustainable in terms of you'll be able to field a roster. Like I'm not worried about Clemson having enough kids to field a roster next year or in the coming years. But as far as competitive depth, competitive and eventually competitive starters, this is not how you build a championship, contending roster. So, I've certainly heard some things about, change and from Clemson institutionally with how they go about doing things through 110 Society and also IPTE. But, first of all, we'll have to see it. I'll believe it when I see it. But second, you got to get to a point where I don't think Clemson will ever get to a point where they're going to be, spending 12 million for a 5-star quarterback like you saw Michigan just do. That's not where I think Clemson will ever be. You don't have the alumni base. You don't have you don't have a connection to a giant company to be able to fund that, or a multi-millionaire to be able to fund that. But you are in a position to be doing better than what you're doing. And if you are aligned more institutionally from an NIL and fundraising standpoint, you might be able to mitigate some of these losses that you've had on the trail. We'll see kind of what changes come, but I mean, this right now, as far as this 2025 recruiting class is concerned, I can't call it anything else other than a failure.
No, it's a complete failure. This 2025 class is an abject failure for every single recruiter on this Clemson staff. There's no other way to say it. It's time to stop dancing around and sugarcoating this stuff. Clemson's recruiting is flat out bad right now. It's bad. And for a team, for a college that and a program that hangs its hat on high school recruiting and high school recruiting alone, it can't happen. You can't have 6 guys decommit in one class. It can't happen.
Nope. And 4 of them are top 100 kids.
Yeah, 4 of them top 100 kids decommitted from your class. That's probably more and we'll do a deep dive on this in Monday's show, I assure you guys. But just right off the top of my head, I can't remember a previous class under the Dabo Swinney era where we had 5 decommitments, especially the high-rated recruits that are decommitting from Clemson. You can't allow it to happen. And for a program and Dabo Swinney, whose philosophy is high school guys first, we build through high school recruiting. That's how we do things. We're only going to use the transfer portal if we, I don't know when we'll use it. I'm not even going to go down that road right now. But for a program and for a coach that hangs their hat on high school recruiting, you look at this 2025 class, this is the kind of stuff that will set you back for several seasons. You can't allow things like this to happen. And really the only way out of the bind that Clemson's 2025 class finds itself in is through some transfer guys to patch some holes that you are clearly going to have after this recruiting class. It's bad. It's unacceptable. It's yet another decommitment. And people can say tampering. People can say these young kids are just chasing money. They don't care about development and blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because they're decommitting from your program and they're going to other people's programs. So we got to stop crying about other teams flashing money and tampering, quote unquote, with players. It's going to happen. And Clemson's going to have to your point, change its philosophy on NIL, on the transfer portal. We are going to have to look at this stuff because if you can no longer recruit in that 8 to 12 range, as far as high school recruiting, you got no shot. You got no shot going forward. And this class, I think, is all the way down to 29th or something like that at this point. It's just bad, man. There's no other way to say it. And like I said, we'll do a deep dive on this in the Monday episode of the All In Show. So hopefully you guys will come check that out. And we'll really get into the weeds on this and figure out just how much this is going to affect Clemson and how far the recruiting has fallen off from a high school recruiting standpoint, which is something a few short years ago you would have never thought you would have said about Clemson football.
No, and like I said, like it's if you're going to be a program that emphasizes high school recruiting and all of that, like you have to be able to hold on to your kids. Like it's imperative that you hold on. Like you're gonna it flips in this day and age are almost inevitable at this point. Yeah, I think we're past the point of Clemson, having the rate where they had like 1 decommit in like 6 cycles or whatever. Like I don't think unless you get like some big giant NIL chest where that you'll be able to throw money around and be able to, up the ante and bid for guys. I don't think there's ever going to be a point where where you'll be able to hold on to, your entire class and every kid that commit. But you can't have 4 top 100 kids. You can't lose 4 top 100 kids, and 6 total in a single cycle. With the way that, especially with how little, your recruiting board is compared to other schools, you don't offer nearly as many kids, and so it's even more imperative that you land the kids that you do go after. And so, if Clemson was casting a wider net, okay, this would still suck a whole lot, but we might be having some different conversations. But now you're in some uncomfortable territory. And Clemson is going to pivot. They're going to find guys that they feel like fit, and they're going to pivot to other guys. But it's not going to be a Tay Harris caliber player. It's not going to be a Isaiah Campbell caliber player. It's not going to be a Grayson Littleton caliber player. Not a Bryce Davis caliber player. Like those guys are, those guys are bought and paid for, and you're clearly you're not using the NIL chest to be able to do to land those kids and hold on to them. So that's kind of where we are. Didn't want to. It's something we had to address because it happened today, and the news was. It's been circulating all throughout the fan base and in Clemson spaces. So, I don't blame, and I don't blame the kids. Like, this is just kind of where we are. Listen, if I could speak for me personally and say, okay, I wouldn't let $100,000 be the difference in whether or not I go to a school that has a proven track record of development at my position. But I've not been in that position. I was not good enough to play Division I college football. So it's very easy for me to say that. And I'm a fan. I'm speaking from a biased perspective and on the wrong end of it. So it's like, I'm just kind of at the point where, it's the system, and that's where we are. I don't think you can, and we've talked about it. I don't think we can bank on revenue sharing to level the playing field the way that maybe our head coach seems to think it will. You still have to be able to play in the NIL game, and we're doing it to a degree, but not as well as we need to in order to prevent things like this from happening. And so that's where we are. That's where we are. Yeah. We'll see we'll see what they change.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's. You think these universities and these institutions are just going to suddenly stop dabbling in NIL because revenue sharing comes to fruition? No. They'll be like, oh, well, we're already paying them revenue sharing, so I guess we'll calm down with the NIL. No, NIL is not going anywhere. So we got to figure out how to be competitive in the new landscape of college football, and it's going to take some changes. So
100%. But we'll leave it at that. We'll have another conversation about it, I'm sure, on the Monday show. But let's see what you guys are talking about in the live chat, whether it's about the game, whether it's about, anything. And then we'll get on out of here. John says that Auburn is rolling Texas A&M, which is good for Clemson. Yes, it is, because A&M as a 2-loss team, certainly still vying for that for an at-large bid, and I think they're still in the SEC championship race. So a loss for them would potentially, kind of knock them out of that conversation, and also. As far as, college game day is concerned, like they play Texas next week, like that could affect whether or not game day chooses to go there, and Clemson, South Carolina might be the choice. We'll see. Let me see. I want to find the score because Notre Dame is up on Army. That's not good for us.
Not good. Come on, Army. Come on, Army.
I'm talking. I mean, we've been pretty realistic about it on here. Like we felt like beyond making backdooring into the ACC championship game and winning it, like we don't our confidence in getting an at-large bid is pretty low. So even with a win over South Carolina next week, so let's see. Boise State is losing at halftime to Wyoming. That's significant.
That is significant. They need to win out.
Yeah, if they, I mean, because they're the perceived. I mean, they're still probably the highest ranked G5, I believe. Is Tulane? Maybe Tulane might take over, but I don't know. I don't have the brain capacity to think about all those scenarios right now. But yeah, Texas A&M is down 21-0 to Auburn. That's
wow.
Auburn's been such a weird team because they probably should have been a little bit better than they were this year.
Yeah.
But they've just they've lost some close games and they've that Cal loss earlier in the year was puzzling. They've been close in some other ones. Probably should have beaten Oklahoma. Jay says also, if you don't bid on or get elite players, your high paid coaches will just be under a bigger microscope. Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you're not going to get the elite guys, like it's going to put more pressure on them to on their evals. Like you got to find kids that will stay in the program and have the potential to be big time difference makers for you, and that's hard to do at Clemson did it at a really high level, but they also were getting the 5-star high caliber type kids. So you had a good mix. Right now, it seems like you're trending towards having to over rely on hoping you hit on your evals instead of having a few guys that you think have high potential that you develop over the course of their career, but then you also have the 5-star studs that are just you look at them and that's a kid that's going to play in the NFL in a few years. So, I mean, you have guys on the roster right now, but, as we get, 25, 26, 27, when you're looking down the line, so you're not pulling in those types of guys anymore. And once these guys, once this crop of players cycles out, you might be in a different situation. Let's see. Jeremiah says Matt Luke was the only coach that recruited good this cycle. Well, I disagree that Matt Luke was the only person that recruited good this cycle. I mean, I think Mike Reed did a good job, landing Grayson Littleton and him and Mickey Conn both landed Tay Harris and it's hard for me to say that you did a poor job recruiting them. Like I don't think you could have done much better. Mickey Conn landed Jordan Young. I don't think you could have done a better job as far as the relationship standpoint. It takes more than relationships to win recruitments these days. You got to be able to make assurances of the monetary kind, and Clemson is doing it, but not at the level that other schools are, and especially out of high school, and that's what's killing you. Jabe says, when you're losing to Duke and Georgia Tech, you have a problem. Yeah, I mean, I do think there's a point where Duke and Georgia Tech are programs that are, they're not the ones recruiting at a top 10 level where they're just, spinning willy-nilly on multiple players. Like their strategy is just like they're locking in on a couple of guys that, especially local kids, that local highly rated players that, they'll be willing to spend maybe a little bit more than market rate for to land. And that's kind of what happened with Bryce Davis. It's what happened with Tay Harris. It happens. So, but still, you got to be able to be competitive to hold on to your class. Like I said, Jeremiah said that Matt Luke. He mentioned Matt Luke. Like Matt Luke did a fantastic job recruiting David Sanders. Sanders would probably, if NIL was not a factor, I feel 100% confident if David Sanders would be in your class right now. Like you weren't able to present a competitive NIL package compared to Tennessee and Ohio State, and even Nebraska, and that's why you weren't even in the final. You weren't even in the final cut. You went from being the favorite to not even being in the final cut because you could not present a competitive offer,
which is something that Clemson's got to get to, right?
Yep.
They have to find a way as a university, as a program, to get to the point where you're competitive. You're in the ballpark of some of these offers, right? Because Clemson does have a lot of stuff extra to sell, right? With a lot of stuff that they do to their program. And contrary to popular belief, that still is important to a lot of these recruits. But you can't be totally off on your NIL opportunities, right? If Clemson can get competitive with them, get in the ballpark of some of these offers, I feel certain that they'll start landing more of these recruits. I think someone would be willing to take a little less to come to a place like Clemson, but you got to be competitive. You got to at least be in the ballpark of some of these offers for them to consider all of your other things that you have to offer for your program. And I think that's something that, Clemson's got to take a long, hard look at, all the way from Dabo Swinney to Graham Neff to the leadership in the university, from the president down. They all have to take a look at it and really figure out a way to become competitive in this NIL space, because it's not going away. And if you don't figure out how to do it, you will continue to slide further and further down as far as the competitive roster that you're going to be able to field year in and year out. It's just a fact of the matter. You'll continue to lose recruits, and you'll continue to lose people off your roster at the end of every season.
Couldn't have said it better, man. I get there is a fine line, because I do understand the opposing viewpoint. It's like, well, if if they come to you for money, they can easily leave you for money. And I'm like, yeah, but that's where we are. Like, if Clemson fans as a fan base, if the Clemson fan base are still, of the belief that Clemson is a national championship caliber program, then that you're going to have to be able to you're going to have to be able to enter those waters. Yeah, I'm not saying dive head first and be like, do what Ohio State is doing or Michigan is doing. Like, I don't think you can get to that point, but you got to get closer to that point. And I know Dabo doesn't like it, and I know that a lot of that goes against kind of what he believes in. But if the expectation is that Clemson is a championship program, that's what you're gonna have to do. Otherwise, if the fan base decides, okay, we don't want to compromise those values, we don't want to do it. It's like, fine, okay, well, that's fine. We don't have to, but obviously that means you got to reset your expectations and understand that Clemson is no longer a championship caliber program.
Yeah, it means you're never winning another national. It means you're never winning another national title.
Nope.
The biggest thing you could hope to is get into the ACC championship game from time to time.
Yep. And you'll be able, and you'll have some good years, and with the way that roster turnover is right now, you'll have some not so great years. You might have another 8-4. You'll have some 8-4s, 9-3s, mixed within the occasional 10-2, maybe an 11-1, and you really cycle up on a good year. But I don't, you'll never get to the point where you're competing at a level where you'll be able to make a 12-team playoff and win it. And Clemson fans, we're going to have to be okay with that if that's the mentality that we're going to have.
Yeah, if that's the route you want to go, you'll just be, you'll just go to a bowl game every year, and that'll be it.
Yep.
You're not competing in the 12-team playoff without it. You're just not. It is what it is. Like it, don't like it, doesn't really matter. Clemson's got to decide who they want to be right now in the new landscape of college football. And it's not just Dabo Swinney. John Sarian in here mentions it. I mentioned it earlier. It is Graham Neff. It is President Clements. It is the entire university as a whole. All these people got to get right, man. They need to get in a room together and figure this out and figure out how to get on the same page as a university, as a donor base, and become competitive in the NIL market. You don't have to outbid all these people. You don't have to, quote unquote, get into bidding wars, but you have to start making your NIL packages more competitive. You got to get into the ballpark of some of these guys. And if you do, I think you can pull some of these guys, because with Clemson's track record and all the extra stuff that they do as a university, and the program that Dabo Swinney has built, if you're in the ballpark of the NIL, then you can sell that stuff as well. And they're going to be more inclined to listen, right? Because, oh, yeah, I'm not getting quite as much here at Clemson, but I'm still getting enough. Oh, and they got all this other stuff, right, that's going to help me out later. So, I mean, that's where I think Clemson's got to get to be competitive in this iteration of college football, this era of college football, if you will, that we find ourselves in. Because the can of worms is open. You can't put it back now. NIL is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And revenue sharing will be here as early as this July, or next July, excuse me, this coming July 2025. Will be when revenue sharing is here. So you got to figure it out.
Absolutely. I mean, it's gotten to the point where, these kids are like, other programs are basically watching, they look at our class and who the kids that we offer.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, okay, we know they're not going to offer as much as we could potentially offer. And from the kids' standpoint, you're basically being used as leverage, like that to get a better offer. Like, so not only are you doing the evaluate, like Clemson has been such a good program over the years at evals, it's gotten, but where that used to be a strength, now it's like you get these kids in the class early, and now it's a hold on to dear life and hope that nobody comes in with an offer. But programs are smelling blood in the water. That's why you've had 4 of your 6 decommitments be top 100 kids, because other programs are catching on and like, okay, those kids are not as committed. We used to try to flip kids and they would block our numbers and stuff, but now it's like those kids aren't committed, in the way that they say they are. Not anymore. A Clemson commit doesn't mean what it used to mean, and so now you're basically holding on to dear life and hoping that you keep some of these kids, and they're willing to take less in the hopes of making more later in their career. Like, it's not a sustainable model for getting the talent you need to compete for a championship, and it's gonna have to change. We said we weren't gonna get in depth with it, and then I think we probably created like a 30-minute segment. So that'll be fun to clip up. Let's see what else you guys are talking about. I didn't want to make this a whole NIL discussion, but
no, we could talk more Monday about it.
Tiger Tom says, I think Bettencourt, Moore, and I'm assuming David.
Probably about EE, yeah.
Show serious potential, even if it's just reflected within their athletic ability. I hope Dabo makes good full use. Yeah, I mean those guys have a lot of potential. Bettencourt, he reminds me of, I don't want to put in like those kind of lofty expectations on him, but he's got serious, like I feel like he can be one of the best to ever play here at tight end. Just his athletic ability, it's at a level we haven't had at tight end. I don't think I've ever seen. He just, go back and watch him in high school. Like he was a man amongst boys out there. It was special, and we know how good, talented, and special TJ is, and he's only going to continue to get better and develop. And you got to see some of Ezeamume today. He redshirted this year, and you got to see him today. But he's going to have to step into a bigger role. I mean, he's one of the more physically gifted backs in the room right now. He just has to, for him, the reason he hasn't played early is, he's the mental aspect of the game and the nuances of the position he's still learning. So, which is normal. I mean, that's isn't so. But CJ's track record at development so far has been pretty solid. So I'm excited to see what jump he makes in year 2. See. Yeah, John mentions David Sanders taking a visit to Ohio State today. Yeah, when his recruitment was really like when coming down to the wire, I really felt like Ohio State was going to be the pick with what they were offering him, like the package he was being off. I was shocked. I wasn't shocked that he picked Tennessee, but I knew that proximity was a big deal to him. But I was like, I knew how much Ohio State was offering and what kind of benefits they were throwing at him and his family. And I was like, I don't know how you turn that down, to be honest. Like, that's an insane offer. But I don't know. We'll see if Tennessee can hold on to him, but clearly, that recruitment took a shape that Clemson was not in a position to deal in. So, that's just what it is right now. Let's see. Tiger Tom says, Vizina reminds me of Will Schusslin, who I thought was underutilized. Hopefully Dabo develops and fully employs Vizina before he transfers. Yeah, that's a name I haven't heard in a while. Good Lord.
Schussler?
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah. That's a throwback right there.
That is a throwback. I remember him coming into games at the end of games. Never got that opportunity as a starter though.
No.
I kind of see it. Probably, as far as like Schussler, okay, he had some legs, didn't he? But but Vizina definitely, like, from an athletic standpoint, like that was very clear that, like, coming out of high school, like,
yeah,
he can
get it done with his legs.
Yeah, I mean, he was a gamer like that. He made plays with his legs. And not just just running it, but throwing on the run. And you saw it. His best throw of the day was when they rolled him out, and he hit that strike to I believe it was Jackson Crosby on the sideline. But he clearly still has a lot of developing to do. Good thing is you get theoretically you get Cade back for another year. Give
hopefully
him another
get his winner back too.
Yeah. Hopefully. You never know. But you have to wonder, that the plan of action was always if they were transparent with him, and if he was cognizant of okay, I'm coming in a year after the guy in front of me, obviously that means I'm probably not going to get my opportunity for a little bit. But you never know. If he does, if he does leave, that does put you in an interesting situation at quarterback. But I haven't heard any indications that he's leaving. I think he's been very mature about kind of his situation, but we'll see. I've heard that before from other kids and then they were in the portal a week later. So
yeah, we'll see. I'm a little worried. Come season's end on who's going to enter.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
I just judging by the trend of the 2025 recruiting class, not feeling super confident heading into the off season and the opening of that transfer portal season. Got a feeling we could take some pretty significant hits there. I hope we don't, but if I was a Clemson fan, and I am, I would prepare yourself for some hits.
Yeah. I believe and this is secondhand. This is secondhand, so don't quote me. I don't know this for sure or not, but I think the 110 Society expects to need 12 million for this roster next year
to maintain the roster.
Yeah.
Good Lord, man.
So if you guys want some kind of a ballpark estimate, that's and you've got programs like Ohio State. Ryan Day said I need 20 million for my roster. He came out and said it like last year. So it really puts things into perspective.
Well, if anybody's got a spare $12 million rolling around in your change drawer, just throw it to the 110 Society's way.
Desperate Man says you overlook Clemson as relatively small university, agriculture and engineering for most of its life, no professional school. I did not overlook that. That was something that I directly mentioned earlier. So I have not overlooked it, and I understand where Clemson is. That's why I said I don't think Clemson's ever going to get to a point where they're, spending the kind of money that the Ohio States and the Michigans and
right.
Clemson is not in a position to do that. They don't have a multi-millionaire or a big time corporation that's backing them like Oregon. Like you don't have that. And again, you have one of the youngest living alumni bases in the Power Four. So, Desperate Men. I know all the statistics. I'm an alum. I know what it is and what it isn't. But I do know that Clemson can be doing better than what it's doing right now, and you have to in order to, if you want to compete for titles. If we decide that, okay, we're not going to engage in this, we don't think we can do it, well, it's time to reset our expectations. And what are you paying your $11 million head coach that much money for?
Yeah.
I know it's partly, in part it's a reward for what he's done, but at a certain point you have to justify.
You have to continue to produce.
Yeah, you have to continue to justify that level of money. Yeah.
Yeah. Every coach in America is not making $11.5 million. So production still has to happen in order to justify writing that check year in and year out. It's just the fact of the matter.
All right, let's do a couple more and then. Dylan asked a good question. He says, should Dabo focus on paying big on 1 or 2 recruits each cycle instead of more recruits for less? Well, I mean, ideally, you want to get to a point where I don't think you can afford to I think depending on the position, there might be some years where you do put more into one kid than you do others. But I mean, you still have to be able to field a class, a complete class. I think the goal should be you got to be able to you need to get your baseline level, your baseline, whatever you call it, like your baseline package. You got to be able to increase that ultimately, because that's where you're losing. Because you're losing out the gate because people are just flat out beating you on the initial offer.
Yeah.
And that's and it's getting to a point where it's you're a non-starter with some of these kids that you want, and that's not good. So either you do that, or you, like I said, you downgrade your level of recruit, and you go after lesser. You really have to trust your evals and hope that you hit at an extremely high rate. And maybe you'll have a roster that's capable of competing, but chances of that are very slim. There's a reason.
Once every 3 to 4 years, you might have a roster that's capable of, making some noise.
Yeah. So if that's where if that's where where we want to be, then I mean, who knows? Maybe that is the best way for us moving forward. But I don't personally think that is. I think. You got to be able to. You got to try to do it. Be more modern before you resign yourself to downgrading your expectations. Let's see. Yeah, James says 11 million to not make a 12-team playoff. Yeah, I mean, like I said, like if we downgrade our expectations as a program, like we're no longer justifying the amount of invest. And it's not even just Dabo and how much he's being paid. It's the investment in the program in general. We like, why are we? Hell, if I'm a student, I'm sure some of you guys that pay attention know about the $150 athletics fee that they're adding to kids, tuition. In the grand scheme, with how expensive Clemson is, $150 isn't all that much in the grand scheme of things. It's expensive either way, but still, I would be like, well, what am I paying this extra fee for? I'm paying for housing and my meal plan and my books. Doesn't even include my books and all the stuff I'm doing. Why am I paying this $150 fee to go? And I came here partly because Clemson is a football school. I wanted that football school atmosphere, and I like that our football team is good. And I'm paying this money, but we're not. We stopped trying to be competitive. Yeah, I would be upset personally. I'm glad I graduated when I did, because if this is what we're gonna do, then it's what's the point? Well, we're raising all this money. We're doing all of the just the university itself has grown so much. We're doing all this construction. We're building all these new athletic facilities. We're investing so much in all these other areas. and we say we say we care about winning championships in football, but we're not doing everything that we should be doing. So first thing that has to be the priority. If you're Clemson, is you got to get on the same page. The university has to be aligned in their mission and what they want to be, and what they want their football program to be, because otherwise you're not justifying the amount of investment, and you're a university first and foremost, and people are going to be asking questions. It's like, okay, well, what am I'm paying you all this money every year, and this is what you're doing with it.
Yep.
And then the alumni, the IPTAY donors, the 110 Society donors that have been, especially IPTAY donors, because that makes up the vast majority of our fundraising. It's like, what am I paying you for? All right, let's do one more. I keep saying one more, but it is. I mean, we're having a really good conversation, so that. Yeah, Tiger Tom says those of us like me who have a kid at Clemson did notice that athletic, exactly. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, I was speaking from a student perspective, but I'm like, the parents are in the vast majority of cases are the ones paying actually paying the bill.
Right.
And it's like, so why am I paying this extra money? Like,
what's this going to?
Yeah. Clemson is expensive, y'all. Like, even in-state tuition is expensive. So it's like
very, very expensive.
Very expensive. So it's like, and it's gotten, and they've increased it. They've increased tuition like the past 3 years, I think. So,
yeah,
or something like
year.
That.
Every single year.
It's gone up. And, I get part of that is because they're getting record number of applicants, and it's a bigger school than it's ever been. I get all that. But, it's at a certain point, it's getting more and more difficult. And don't even get me started on what that means for because, the money that goes to, the IPTAY money is what is used mostly to fund student athlete scholarships. But, like, you're having to justify asking more and more and more of your base of supporters and donors without the results that should be expected from them, and that's not fair. It puts a ton of pressure on the fan, and the fan is not getting that return on investment. All right. I think that's going to do it.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I made like the last 45 minutes of that show not even about the Citadel game, but we had a good, we talked about it, and that game was what it was, and the good things were good, the bad things were bad. We will have a lot to talk about on Monday in regards to the matchup you have next week. So make sure that you guys tune in. Like I said, it's on Monday because Thanksgiving. We will not be doing a show on Wednesday. So Monday we'll do our preview. We'll make our predictions, and we'll see you guys, next Saturday. But make sure that you guys hit the like button on this live. Make sure you share it and subscribe if you haven't already. And thank you so much. TPC, you got any parting shots before we get on out of here?
Yeah, guys. Thanks so much for being in here. Got 38 people in the live chat. Make sure you guys hit that like button on your way out. Consider subscribing. Join us for this Monday special edition of the All In Show. And we're going to lean heavy into talking about South Carolina and rivalry week and all of that stuff. And it's going to be a ton of fun. So hope to see you guys there. And that's all I got.
All right. Until then, I'm Jordan Bowman. He's Tiger Paw Craven. Go Tigers.